Where's he gone? بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. Just like 2 weeks ago, my name is Ismail Timol and I'm part of the Preston-based campaign charity, Children of the Ghetto. Respected friends, respected brothers, respected elders, respected Maulanas, dear sisters and dear children. Once again, I greet you with the familiar blessing and the traditional greeting. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We can do a bit better than that. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings upon each and every one of you. It is great once again to see so many people gathered here today for this march and demonstration. Boy oh boy, wasn't that a good march? Yes! Yeah, I said, wasn't that a good march? Yes! Did we not shout for the cause of Palestine? Yes! Did we not do this for the people of Palestine? Yes! Did we not do this for the people of Gaza? Yes! It's fantastic once again to see the streets of Preston filled with the people of Preston and afar, standing in solidarity with the people of Palestine, with our people of Gaza. Yesterday was a historic moment for the city of Preston. We got Preston City Council to raise the Palestinian flag above the town hall. We did have issues when they weren't going to raise the flag on police advice. But we came out yesterday in our hundreds and in our thousands and started chanting about Palestine and made our voice heard. So with the help of the Almighty, it was the people of Preston who ensured that this happened. Free, free! Palestine! Free, free! Palestine! Free, free! Palestine! Almost instantly, the photos and the videos of this happening were flying around social media through WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, and through our Palestinian contacts that's here with us, who sent the messages directly to Gaza, so the people of Gaza know about it. Friends, we have gathered here exactly 2 weeks ago. We gathered here 2 weeks ago, not even wildly imagining what would unfold over the next 14 days. I'll just go over some of the things that have happened in the past 2 weeks. The death and destruction of the Palestinians has continued in Gaza. The genocide and war crimes committed by the Israelis. The killing of innocent women and children and the elderly on a daily basis. The killing of children playing football on a beach. The massacres committed in the area of Shuja'iyya, where they absolutely bombed and annihilated the whole area last weekend.
One step down.
The destruction of the Al-Wafa hospital.
One step down.
The barbaric bombing and killing of the innocents at the Al-Aqsa hospital.
One step down. One step down.
The shocking murders of women and children in the UN school in Beit Hanun just a few days ago. And the continuous airstrikes that are wiping out numerous families. One of the biggest being over 30 members of the same family. The list of horrors can go on and on and on.
Sit down.
Brothers and sisters, I'm changing tack here a bit. Where is King Malik Abdullah of Saudi Arabia? Custodian of the Holy Two Mosques. What about the third mosque in Jerusalem? With your trillions and trillions of dollars in the American stock market. What about the Palestinians? Free, free, Palestine! 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 Where is General Sisi? many are being murdered and killed. They are silent because they are all in cahoots with the Americans and the Israelis. Shame on you, our leaders. Shame on you. 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 Just some more statistics. So the massacre of the Palestinians has now entered the 19th day, almost 3 weeks. Just today, just this morning, over 100 bodies were pulled out of the rubble from the destroyed buildings. Over the past week, they've been rotting and lying and decomposing over the past week because the emergency services could not reach them. As it stands, there's over 1,000 martyrs with over 6,000 injured. Out of the 1,000 dead, there's over 40 to 50 elderly and over 200 children. Out of the 6,000 injured, there's over 250 elderly and almost 2,000 children are injured. So over 200 dead children and almost 2,000 children injured. Is this not a massive war crime? Is this not a war crime? Before we continue, out of the respect for the dead, let's all have a moment's silence and make a small prayer and fatiha for the deceased and the people affected. Jazakallah. Okay, thank you very much. We'll proceed with the program. First of all, we've got Speaker Pete Marsden, a regular speaker on Palestine, and always here at the rallies. He's a local trade unionist and the chair of the People's Assembly Against Austerity. I give you Pete Marsden.
Okay. Salam alaikum, brothers and sisters, comrades. Be in no doubt, Israel is at war with Hamas. Israel has launched a war against Gaza, and Israel has launched a war against a population of 1.5 million people that are in the ghettos and camps of Gaza. Israel justifies their attacks by saying it wants to stop the rockets. All right, it wants to stop the rockets. Why is it destroying the sewerage systems? Why is it destroying the electricity? Why is it destroying the water systems? Why is it attacking every building and home associated with Hamas? It's doing that because it wants to destroy the infrastructure and it wants to destroy Gaza. The second justification it comes out with is for the slaughter that's happened, it's Hamas's fault. They're using people as human shields. They're bringing out people who look good on television. You know, this is the disgusting things that the Israeli states are saying. The point is, for Gaza and for Gazans to fight back, they have to do it from their territory where ordinary people live. They have no choice. It is so concentrated with people. You know, and that's why they do it. The ordinary people have nowhere to shelter. Children are being murdered by the Israeli army on beaches. They are being murdered in hospitals. They are being murdered in so-called UN shelters. The UN sent the coordinates of that shelter, the school, to the Israeli army on 12 different occasions. Don't tell me that school was not targeted deliberately. The Israeli army and the Israeli state aren't interested in civilians. They're not interested in those casualties. They want to destroy Gaza. They are deliberately targeting that place. Netanyahu actually stands up and compares Palestinians to animals on 2 legs. This man has no morality. He is not bothered about 800 people, mainly civilians and children, that have been killed in Gaza, and the countless thousands that are actually being injured. They want the destruction of that state. And the second thing I want to say is, as a lot of you know, this is an unequal war. This is a war of David versus Goliath, where Goliath is the Israeli state, and that Israeli state is backed by the UN. It is backed by all the military governments of the Camerons of this world, the Obamas of this world, and the Arab leaders that were mentioned before. Let's look at two things. You look at the Ukraine. There's a massive call for sanctions. Now, on that was an appalling attack on a plane where 289 people were slaughtered. But you look at every big government, they're calling for sanctions against Ukraine. And David Cameron, just think of the hypocrisy. He says, let's stop supplying arms. When actually the arms supply for the British government to Russia has actually gone up, and he's quite welcome to line the Tories' own back pockets by getting money off the Russian oligarchs and the Russian millionaires. But you contrast the calls for sanctions on Ukraine with what's happening in Gaza. Where are the calls for the sanctions on Gaza? The British government have a military contract of £8 billion with the Israeli state. Why doesn't a Cameron, if he believes in sanctions, it isn't a hypocrite, say that actually we are withdrawing any arms offers to the Israeli state? 2 weeks ago, David Cameron went to an arms fair in London and he signed a contract. That contract was for £1 billion for an Israeli firm to supply drones to the British government. You know, drones. Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Drones that have been used around the world, in Pakistan, in places to kill more innocent civilians. It's an absolute travesty that these these government leaders are not reflecting the views of ordinary people, the people who are on the street and the people that are demonstrating. What can we do? Because you can think, they're big governments, we can't do anything. But I tell you what, armies aren't the most important thing in the world. The power of people, the power of trade unions, the power of organisation, it can be greater. The Americans lost the war in Vietnam. They were the biggest military power, but they lost because of the support of the Vietnamese people. So we need to do two things. There's an heroic struggle going on in Gaza, like all of you know. They have no choice. It is starve or fight, and they are fighting back. What we need then, hopefully we're seeing the first signs of it, is of a third intifada. You're seeing demonstrations already on the West Bank, where unfortunately some, Palestinians have already been killed. But they are rising up again, and we have seen in the Arab states, we have seen massive demonstrations, in Iran, of tens of thousands in support of the Palestinians. We've seen similar demonstrations of ordinary people in Jordan supporting the Palestinians. And even in Egypt, where Sisi has ordered a huge attack and has jailed tens of thousands of people and murdered many. Many of those Egyptians have gone onto the street and said, we want freedom for the Palestinians at a great risk to their life. That's part of the struggle. The other part of the struggle is what we do and what we can do. And demonstrations like this are important and vital, that we fly that flag over town halls and we support the Palestinians. But the other one, and I mentioned it before, there is a massive boycott, disinvestment and sanctions campaign going on. Have a look online. It's absolutely critical that we begin to boycott Israeli goods, that we stop Israeli goods being sold in Britain. It's also absolutely vital that we disinvest, that we stop supplying this murderous regime. It would not exist without the support, the armed support that they're given from the West, and it would not stand up economically without the economic support it gets. Israel gets more aid from the European Union than the whole of Africa. Africa with starvation. That shouldn't happen. So that needs to change. I'll shut up, sorry. I know I'm going on a bit long. So the final thing I'll just end on. Look at that campaign. It's highly effective. Israel's on the back foot about that. The world are rising up in protest. Ordinary people are. We can bring Gaza, we can make Gaza free, and we can bring freedom for Palestine. Thank you.
Palestine! Free, free, 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 Palestine!
Thank you very much, Pete, as ever. Our next speaker is a councillor from Preston City Council, Liz Atkins.
Yeah, thank you. I am not a speech maker. I'm nothing like as good as he was. I'm a Preston City Councillor, and after you had your last demonstration, I heard about it, and I hadn't known it was happening, and I asked Anis Faruqi, who's another councillor, is there anything else that we could do? And I said, I think I might ask if the council can fly the Palestinian flag at half-mast for a day, at least. And he said, you've really got very little chance of that happening. And I said, well, I will ask anyway. I'll ask. And it's been very difficult to get it to happen. Really, there's been an awful lot of problems cropping up, but they did fly it on Friday, not for as long as they wanted to, but they flew it from the front of the town hall, which is even better than the plan, which was from the top. Nobody could have seen it on the top. Nobody sees the flags up there, but it was right there, where at the front of the building, where everybody goes in and out, and I was so happy and so pleased that that happened. I think we have a war memorial over there, which is very impressive, and it's there, and it's good that we have it, and it's to honour people who lost their lives defending their homeland. Now, the Palestinians are dying right now defending their homeland. The people that are dying, mostly, are the women and the children, and I think, more than anything, I'm here as a wife and a mother of a son, and I had to do something. I couldn't see the carnage on the television any longer and do absolutely nothing. And I know it's a symbolic thing that the flag went there, but it's a historic thing. It's never happened before. So, I told you I wasn't a speech maker. I'm here to represent the women and the children and the weak and the old, the ones who have nowhere to run to in Palestine. They are just terrified, and the rockets will not stop, and they're dying every day. They're dying now. So I'm here to represent them. They can't come and represent themselves, but I can, so that's why I'm here, and that's why I wanted the flag to fly like it did. So thank you so much.
Thank you once again, Liz Atkins. Before we continue, just a few more comments. How many times do we hear our Western politicians come out with the typical excuse, Israel has a right to defend itself. Israel has a right to defend itself. We're sick and tired of hearing the same old excuse from the Western politicians, coming out with the same old thing every time. On that specific point, I would like to read out something by the well-known professor, Noam Chomsky. His statement on the Israelis' aggression on Gaza. The incursion and bombardment of Gaza, it's not about destroying Hamas. It's not about stopping rocket fire into Israel. It's not about achieving peace. The Israeli decision to rain death and destruction on Gaza, to use lethal weapons on the modern battlefield on a largely defenseless civilian population, is the final phase in a decades-long campaign to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians.
Shame on the bastards!
Shame on Israel! Shame on Israel!
Shame on Israel! Shame on Israel!
Israel uses sophisticated attack jets and naval vessels to bomb densely crowded refugee camps, schools, apartment blocks, mosques and slums, to attack a population that has no air force, no air defense, no navy, no heavy weapons, no artillery units, no mechanized armor, no command and control, no army, and then he calls it a war? It's not war, it's murder! It's murder! When Israelis in the occupied territories now claim that they have the right to defend themselves, they are defending themselves in the sense that any military occupier has to defend itself against a population they are crushing. But you can't defend yourself when you're military occupying someone else's land. That's not defense. Call it what you want, it's not defense. So the root cause of this whole conflict is occupation. End the occupation. End the occupation. End the occupation. End the occupation. On that note, I'd like to call once again the chair of the children of the ghetto, and my very good friend and partner in crime, I'd say, and his name, Mukhtar Master.
Go on! Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious and the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum, brothers, friends, sisters, and everyone here. I wrote a speech, but I can't be bothered with it. Because love for Palestine is from the heart. It doesn't come from pieces of paper. So my speech is just as it's going to be. Let me tell you, for the last few days, I have to be honest, right? I've hardly had any sleep with Ramadan and Taraweehs and doing television interviews and radio interviews. I've been running on basically adrenaline. I've no food, no drink, and doing all this organising. Honestly, I've had enough really, but I'm doing the best that I can. I have two messages, only two messages. One of courage and steadfastness, and just something that I just don't understand, and that's with the Palestinian people, the courage that they have. That's my first message. My second message is of gratitude. So I'll start with my first message, and that's with the Palestinian people. Over the last few weeks, what we've seen is that just today, I didn't know, it was 1,000 people have now died. Over 5,000 people have been injured and maimed, and they don't have the resources to get these people better in the hospitals. And you have 100,000 people who are now displaced. Displaced. Well, where do they go? Where do displaced people in Gaza go? When you're a square area of 13 miles by 7 miles, and you are confined into a prison, where the bloody hell do you go? Well, you go into UN refugees, and they bloody bomb you. Right, so shame on Israel. However, if people had to go through what they have gone through, anyone would have put up the white flag of surrender. We would have put up the white flag of surrender. Anyone would have said enough is enough and accepted any kind of ceasefire, but not the Palestinian people and not Hamas. And you have got to stand up and applaud their courage, because they don't want their kind of ceasefire. They don't want ceasefire on their terms, they want it on their own terms. And their own terms is that the siege that has continued, this terrible siege since 2006, is lifted so they can live lives just like the rest of us live here.
Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
So my first message is just applauding the courage of the Palestinians and the Gazans. My second message is of gratitude. Gratitude for what happened yesterday. And as the councillor has said, it was absolutely an historic event. Never in the history of England and Wales has a Palestinian flag been raised on any town hall in England and Wales. I mean, I said to the chief executive, I mean, what's the big deal? This is a piece of cloth that's going to be raised just for a little while, a piece of cloth. What does it matter? But I knew, in my heart I knew, it meant a lot. What it meant was that this was a victory for the Palestinians. This was a defeat for the Zionists and these friends of Israel that lobby so hard. And this is a victory that is now immortalised forever, because it's been captured and it's been recorded on social media, on YouTube, and various things. It's been tweeted all over. And Abu Muhammad of Interpol sent it to Gaza, and there was messages from Gaza thanking us, thanking the people of Preston. So my thanks is firstly to Preston City Council for arranging and letting this happen. So thank you, Preston City Council. My second thanks is to somebody who's now disappeared and I can't see him, but Michael Lavalette. Michael has brought motion upon motion to the council. Motion to twin with Nablus, motion to condemn Israel when they've attacked Gaza, and motions to recognise Hamas as the legitimate government of Palestine and of Gaza. So I thank Michael Lavalette. The other person I thank is my friend and colleague, Ismail Timor. And we need people. Honestly, I have to say this, I spend a lot of time with him. And you might think that's not a good thing, but hey, you know, that's something for argument that I say there. But Ismail has such passion for Palestine. Honestly, he has the passion of a lion when it comes to Palestine. And really, we should look for people like him for our mentor, for being a mentor in terms of Palestine. And thirdly, I thank our ulama, our imams, who have given us the love for the Ummah, for our brothers and sisters in Palestine, so that we can do the work that we do. And last of all, I thank all of you, because you turned out 2 weeks ago, and you turned out again, because all the mission that we have is only one mission, and that mission is that we want freedom for Palestine. Freedom for Palestine! I was going to end there in terms of my speech, but I've got one more thing. Honestly, I have one more thing.
The flag that went up there.
Takbir! Allahu Akbar! Takbir! Allahu Akbar! Takbir! Allahu Akbar!
This is the flag that flew yesterday. Only for 5 minutes, but it didn't matter. When we were in that meeting, we were arguing whether it was 1 minute, 1 day, 1 year, it didn't matter. Because Preston City Council put this flag up the town hall yesterday.